Right, so these notes are to help those of you who feel like you need a little bit of extra help with finding volume of prisms, both rectangular and triangular, and cylinders. So for each of these examples, we're going to use the star reference sheet to determine the formula for the area of each base. And we're going to use pi as 3.14 and a calculator for assistance, since some of these numbers are kind of nasty. So the first shape, I always like to highlight the bases. So I'm going to highlight my base, and I'm going to highlight my height. Please remember that the height goes from base to base. It connects those two bases. So by doing this, it makes it a little bit easier to make sure you're not mixing things up. So this is a cylinder. And to find the area of the base of a cylinder, we do pi r squared. So in this case, we're using 3.14, and the radius is 3. So when I multiply all of that out, I get 28.26. And I know that because I did it with a calculator. So I've got 28.26, and that is inches squared because it's area. Now the height of the prism is the yellow, so that's 1.8 inches. The volume formula is big B times H, where big B is the area of my base. So 28.26 times my height, and when I multiply those two together, I get 50.868. And I'm not going to round on any of these because the answers don't turn out that long, and we're using a calculator. Now please notice that I did put inches cubed here because it is volume. And volume has 3 dimensions, so that's why it's cubed. Sorry, a little bit of clarification there. So next, I'm going to highlight my base again. Remember, with rectangular prisms, we just highlight what it's sitting on. And then my height goes from base to base. So the name of the shape is a rectangular prism. And the area of the base for that is base times height. Now notice this B is little. That's because it's just talking about the length of the base, of that rectangle that is the base. I know that's a lot of bases there. So we're using 15.6, and the length of that is 12. So when I multiply those two numbers, I get 187.2. So it's 187.2 millimeters squared. The height is 9 millimeters. So from there, volume equals big B times H, where big B is the area of the base. So 187.2 times my height, which is 9, and that's going to give me 1,684.8 millimeters cubed. Our next example is also a rectangular prism. So here's my height, and here are my bases. And I actually just noticed that this is not only a rectangular prism, it's actually a cube. And it is a cube because all the sides are the same. So the area of the base is pi r squared, is base times height because it is a cube. Apparently I'm having a little bit of troubles here. All right, so it's going to be 8 times 8, which is 64. So 64 inches squared, again squared because it's an area. The height is 8 inches, that's the height of the prism. So the volume is base times height. Big B is the area of the base, so 64, times the height, which is 8, and that's going to give me 512 inches cubed. Okay? Last one before we move on to triangular prisms. This one is a cylinder. Now notice it is not sitting on its base. This is why it's important to highlight. My bases are the circles, that's because it's a cylinder, and that's my height. So area of the base is going to be pi r squared, which is 3.14 times my radius, which is 2.4, so times 2.4 and 2.4. When I multiply all that together, I get 18.0864. And again, I know that's a little bit long, but we're just not going to round today. So the height is actually the distance between the base and the base, which is, of course, 9. And then the volume is big B times H. There's big B. And here's H. When we multiply all that together, we get 162.7776, and that's meters cubed. All right. So triangular prisms are the ones that typically mess people up. So please make sure you're highlighting your bases first, because that's going to help you point out the height. The height is always the distance between the bases. So the name of this shape is a triangular prism. And again, that is because it's got a triangle base. And we find the area of a triangle by doing base times height divided by 2. Now please remember, you are only looking at this when you're doing this formula. So the base of that is 8. The height of the triangle is 6. And then you divide by 2. So 8 times 6 is 48. Divided by 2 is 24 feet squared. The height of the prism is 9. It's highlighted in yellow. And volume equals big B times H. So that's going to be 24 times 9, which gives me 216 feet cubed. Now again, this is very important that you follow these steps every time, because it's very easy to get the height of the prism and the height of the triangle mixed up. This is not the height of the prism. That's the height of the triangle. So this is where your highlighting comes in handy. Our last example is also a triangular prism. Running out of room there. And I'm going to highlight my bases. The triangles are my bases. So that helps me see that, oh, this has to be the height of the prism, because the height is always the distance between the bases. So the area of the base, since it's triangle, is base times height divided by 2. Again, please remember that we're only looking at the triangle when we're finding area of the base. So that's going to be 3 times 6 divided by 2, which is 18 divided by 2, so 9 millimeters squared. I need to do, the height of my prism is my yellow, 5.2 millimeters. And then volume is big B times H. Big B times H is 46.8. And again, that's millimeters cubed because we're talking about volume of a three-dimensional figure. All right, so that's all for these notes. Please complete the next few practice pages in your workbook.